So today we're talking about the story of someone who's been from having a constant irritation in their eyes, feeling like there's an eyelash in there all the time, and going to actually finding relief for their eyes. My name's Dr. Leigh Plowman, optometrist, and I'm the founder of Dry Eye Directory. And today I'm interviewing David Frank, the founder of SteamGoggle. And we'll talk about David's story and to how he found relief for his eyes. And I'll leave a link to any products that we mention underneath this video. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. It's my pleasure to introduce David Frank from SteamGoggle. And David has over a decade of experience in the manufacturing and research and development industry, and particularly in medical devices. And so it's a pleasure to welcome David to the audience today. Thanks so much, David.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Tell us a bit about your journey with dry eyes. What are some of the first symptoms that you had that you might have a problem with your eyes?
Really, itchy, red, crusty eyelids. That started as early as I can remember. And I noticed a few other people in my, in my class as well would have, or a couple people in my whole grade would have it. But it was just something that I kind of dealt with on a daily basis, having very itchy, red eyelids, and I kind of constantly pick my eyelashes going like this, trying to get the gunk out. And I feel like a lot of people have that issue, but mine was just every day. It was kind of constant. It was all the time. It was just something you kind of live with. But at that point, I didn't really have, I guess, dry eye symptoms or as far as irritation, that kind of thing. I would say my first kind of flare up as far as having irritation was probably my senior year of high school. It was about kind of around Halloween time. And I developed this kind of foreign body sensation kind of in my left eye. It was right around when the fires kind of passed through our neighborhood and a lot of homes burned down. So maybe that was kind of something that kind of instigated this, this flare up as well. But it was basically in this left eye, there was, kind of like an eyelash. If you think, if you get an eyelash in your eye or something like that, you can kind of feel a kind of sensation in that area, and every time your eye is kind of looking around, you can kind of feel this. You can feel it, and you're kind of looking in your eye. You're kind of looking in the mirror, going like this, constantly going, you're trying to find something in there, right? Because if you find the eyelash, you can remove it. But if you're looking and looking, there's nothing there. So I end up going to a couple doctors with my dad, optometrist, and ophthalmologist, and a specialist at USC, and at the very end of each of those, it was kind of, they gave you a couple eye drops, tell you to kind of do the warm compresses. And there wasn't that much information, as much, I think, as you have online now, as far as, different compresses and Demodex and, and then meibomian gland dysfunction and everything online. But anyways, I ended up doing a lot of these eye drops, and those didn't really seem to help me at all. Every eye drop I did, it almost seemed to make it worse almost, because my eyes were wet, and I'm still kind of going around. And eye drops in general had never really helped as far as my issue. And I'd say this kind of first flare up around late high school. It lasted probably a few months. And it was just kind of something very, very constant. It's constantly in your mind. It's something that you can't think about anything else, right? So I went to a number of these doctors, and then even after the specialist, I came back, and it just wasn't getting better. And I kind of call them flare-ups because over the years, this is probably about 10 years ago, but it would kind of ramp up, where the irritation with this foreign body sensation, generally 95% of the time is my left eye, right? I had it sometimes, in this eye as well, but the nagging kind of sensation and pain was always in this eye. This was always the problem child, that I'm always looking at. And it would kind of go in waves, I would say, a little bit. I would say, looking back on it, the winter time, it was generally worse as far as these kind of flare-ups that I'd have. The summertime was generally better. But I would say that it wasn't, concrete, that it only happened in wintertime, it only happened, or it happened, it only happened in wintertime, or it didn't happen in summertime. But I'd say that, once the eye got irritated, it was very hard to get it unirritated. So, yeah, so as soon as he kind of had that foreign body sensation, it could last for months, a lot of these things as it kind of went. And I'd say, over the course of the years, that flare up, it kind of went away, after a couple months or so. It's kind of hard to remember exactly over the course of dealing with this for that long. But I'd say over the course of the years, so then I went to college. The flare-ups started to happen a lot more frequently, and they last longer towards the end of college. So my last couple of years of college, had really bad issues trying to read and study, because every time you made that motion, in this corner. Generally, it was the corner of my left eye, and basically it would kind of start off in the morning. It was a little better. I mean, as soon as I woke up, and as soon as you start to move your eye around, you could already feel it again. You're kind of looking in the mirror again. And I can't tell you how many, probably hundreds of hours I've spent looking in the mirror over the course of, of the time I've had it, right? Trying to find something, right? Just because it's interesting, because sometimes I have actually, found an eyelash in there. And, it's a little bit different sensation, but that kind of gives you the I think, as far as the feeling, as far as what the eye feels like. And that sometimes I would actually have an eyelash in there and I couldn't tell. That's how irritated it was. So imagine, I try to tell people, imagine putting an eyelash in your eye and then, just leave it there. Just don't take it out and just leave it there for hours and hours and hours, to the point where you can't really feel the general sensation of the eyelash. It's just, your eye just hurts, right? Your eye is just irritated. And sometimes I would be at the end of the day, or whatever, I wake up, I kind of go out the day and, kind of just getting used to it. I'm pretty much just used to my eyes hurting. But then I kind of, feel something, or I look at my eye again and I notice an eyelash in there. It's just like, it was kind of just no different than any other day. So that's kind of, and as soon as then it gets more and more irritated throughout the day, and you kind of get these headaches that kind of, you know, go behind your eye. And by the end of the day, you're just completely exhausted. You just want to close your eyes. It's a very brutal thing that you just can't get away from. But so, it started to get a little bit worse towards the end of my college years and into my working years. And I had seen a number of dry eye specialists again, over that time, and really nothing. I had started to express my glands. I bought a Mastrota paddle, and I'd done some expressing of my own glands. And at that point, I kind of knew that I had clogged glands, because one of the first times that, you put the Mastrota paddle in there, press on the outside, and I kind of saw this, string of, kind of like you're popping a zit, right? And you see this meibum come out. The first time that happened, I'm like, holy smokes. Well, what the heck is that? And you start doing research, and it's actually, it's meibum coming in. It's meibomian glands. They're obviously very clogged. Um, and, so this consistently kind of was happening. These flare-ups would last longer. Like, the flare-ups would last months and months, and they basically weren't ending. And I basically had no relief. Eye drops didn't help. I did the microwave warm compresses. Those didn't really give me any relief either. I did the USB mask. USB masks I didn't think were, kind of got warm enough. The microwave mask I actually have tested, sometimes, because the goal is to kind of melt down these oils, right? And, sometimes I microwave the microwave mask, and I try to get them to, the temperature to last a long time, but the temperature would only last, as far as 1 or 2 minutes, that perfect temperature that you need. It's kind of right, just under too hot, but not cool enough where you don't think it's doing anything. So, I tried, just trying to do something to help my eyes. I'm thinking about it all the time. I microwaved it, probably for 30, 45 seconds to get it really hot. And then you just kind of put it on there, just going, well, if I get it really hot, maybe it'll start to melt these oils. And at one of these things, it actually burned my eyelids. I had burns, they were red and they were peeling for about a week. I went to work, and my boss is like, what the heck happened to you? She goes, wow, did you burn yourself? And I was like, well, I went a little bit too hot on the warm compress this time. And that ended up making it worse, for a long time after, because you basically just super irritate your eyelids. Your eyes hurt worse after that, and it was kind of a pain. But, and I'd say it all came to, fruition, in my working years. It was getting harder and harder, as far as managing some other, engineers that I had, as far as medical device, medical device companies I was working at, laparoscopic instruments. And it was getting really hard. It was getting harder and harder just to read reports, and comparing, and kind of, and as far as reviewing other people's work and things like that, to be able to sit down and do that. I remember one time I was kind of looking at this, these two numbers. I was comparing numbers back and forth, right? I was checking the numbers were matching from one document to the next, and it was the perfect motion that just scraped my eyes back and forth, left and right, left and right. I was just sat there. I just went, oh my God. I just sat there going, wow, I can't keep doing this. So anyways, I ended up flying across the country to see a specialist, and have some meibomian gland probing done, because I thought there was one area that if I could get this probed, there was one problem area that I felt like, that maybe I get this probe, maybe you can kind of, open up one of those glands and try to, get it unclogged. But long story short, this disease is very expensive for all these treatments, but nothing is covered insurance. I spent a lot of money going there and coming back. And I learned some things as far as things I didn't know about, like Demodex and things like that. He actually showed me one of these mites on one of my eyelashes. But came back and I didn't really have any improvements, right? So um, I was kind of still stuck in the same position that I was at before, and that kind of hit me. That was kind of my Hail Mary, kind of going to one of these specialists and going, I've been looking forward to this a long time, spending 2 weeks, and doing that, taking off work, and okay, if I can do this, I'll get better, right? And then you do that, and then you're not better, right? And then you're kind of thinking, okay, so what do I do at this point? I mean, that's kind of the time I kind of was, the warm compresses. I think there could be better options available, right? Just the options available out there, they're not they don't last very long. The microwavable compress, it lasts for, you have that very short window of temperature, of correct temperature, and if you get it too hot or anything else like that. And I'd say as far as Lipiflow is something that I did that kind of influenced as far as what I've done as far as coming up with this SteamGoggle device, because you're combining heat with oil gland massage, right? So you're kind of combining heat and you're kind of massaging this oil gland at the same time, kind of massaging it. So I kind of got inspiration from using Lipiflow, and I kind of went and tried that at one point. And after doing it, I talked to the technician that was helping operating the machine, and I go, do you see anything, can you see any of these, these oils kind of coming out or anything? And she goes, yes, actually, I can see some of this white meibum on the outside of your eyelids, on your lid margin. I can see falling. I was like, really? And I was like, I would love to be able to kind of photograph that, or kind of, take an image of that somehow. But she didn't have any, there was no, at that clinic, there was no way of kind of grabbing that information. And I thought about it at that point. I was like, I wonder if I can, do some of these warm compresses and see if I can get some of this white meibum out. Because if you're seeing it from Lipiflow, I wonder if you could see it. So I bought a little dyno cam microscope camera, and I started doing some of these, microwavable compresses or USB compresses, and I started imaging the top and bottom of my lid margin following one of these treatments, right? And I wasn't really seeing anything. And this is kind of about the time I started was prototyping with some of these different devices and trying to get a longer, more consistent moist heat kind of treatment, right? So um, I guess I'll kind of fast forward to when I got one of these things working, and it was basically one of these heaters, glued to the outside of a pair of goggles, right? And I was kind of using this, and I was kind of using it, and the first time I kind of felt some of this moist heat when I put some of these wet towels inside the goggle, right? And it would kind of vaporize that moist heat. And I kind of feel this, and I go, "Wow, this is really interesting. This moist heat temperature. I've never really felt something like this before. Besides, like putting your head over a pot of boiling water or something like that." So so then I I do a couple of these sessions, and I do maybe 10 or 20 minutes or so, and then I videotape, and I get some images, and I get the dyno cam, and I image my eyelid margin. I see this white kind of film all over the eyelid margin. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. That looks like there's something actually coming out of the eyelids. And I'm like, this is something to continue. I can kind of actually document or see something actually physically happening here. And I'll say in some of these, once they completed the device and it was started using it on a daily basis, as far as initially, I also noticed something. There was so how the device works is that it lasts for about 10 minutes as far as a minute and a half warm up time, and then 8.5 minutes of actual treatment time. But if you want to extend that, you can easily extend it. So all you have to do is press the power button again, restart the timer, and just add more water to the lattice, because the water lattice is probably because the water has evaporated. We can talk about that a little bit later too. But anyways, as I was using it initially, kind of when I still had these issues. I'd be using the device for probably 2 or 3 sessions in a row. So probably maybe about 20 minutes in or so. And I do these forced blinks every so often. So I'd be watching TV because I can look through the goggles and watching TV or looking at my phone. And I do a forced blink like this every so often. I kind of keep my eyes open and kind of go like this. And then after, it'd be kind of, as far as the first time this happened, it was 20 minutes in, and I do this, and I did one of these forced blinks, and I felt this kind of sandy sensation coming out. This very, very kind of brief sandy sensation. I was like, what the hell is that? And I wait a couple of seconds, and kind of keep my eyes open and do another big forced blink, and I have another sandy sensation, which would immediately go away after a couple more blinks. I kind of blink it away, and it would go away. But after a big forced blink, you have that. And what I noticed was after these sandy sensation episodes, as far as times that I would have that, is that the amount of meibum on the outside of my eyelids, as far as the white film, that I actually have images, on my results page on my website of my actual eyes. During these times that I have a larger amount of this white, gunk on the outside of my eyelid, which was kind of indicative of I was getting more of this stuck meibum out, and I think this kind of gritty feeling that I was feeling was actually some of this meibum that was coming out of the glands after a big forced blink, because you're kind of squeezing it like this, right?
Mm.
And part of me is, that's also potentially indicative of that some of this stuff is still not melting even after this high, moist heat of around 50 degrees Celsius that the SteamGoggle environment is creating, right? This stuff was still not melting. So potentially, even if you're getting this, your eyelids to 50 degrees Celsius, there's potentially some debris in there that's not actually melting, and actually kind of flowing out. So the act of actually massaging them at the same time as that kind of acting as a pumping mechanism to actually as I was using the device for probably over the course of a few weeks, and I have these, I'd probably do it once a day, probably for 10 to 25 minutes or so, depending on how I was feeling. My eyes, after 2 to 3 weeks, I could tell a noticeable reduction in symptoms, right? And I'm kind of looking around because obviously the placebo effect is real. And I've gone through a number of these things, after Lipiflow and things like that, you're like, are my eyes feeling better? But that kind of goes away after, the placebo effect, you can kind of only be excited about, an expectation for a couple of weeks. And if it's not better, typically after a few weeks, you're like, it's not really working, right? And that's happened so many times after every treatment, after every eye drop, after everything else like that, right? So, but this was, after 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, wow, this is, my eyes are actually feeling a lot better. And and then probably after another couple of weeks after that, I was pretty much going, I think I may have done something to actually help me. It was kind of very exciting at that point, going, this may actually have worked. This is the best. This is the only thing I've ever done that has actually, reduced symptoms, but besides just kind of waiting it out or getting hotter or something like that for the flare up to kind of go away. So that's kind of how it started, and and it's kind of the very beginning as far as kind of pushing, kind of creating the device and kind of making it into something that as far as I could sell to other people and kind of help other people as well.
Yeah, so after that 2 weeks or so, 2 to 3 weeks after starting using the device, getting the expression out, and that's when you feel like this could be a real moment. My eyes actually feel a real difference.
It did take a number of weeks to be able to notice a complete difference, because part of me has gone through this session so many times, of thinking I'm better, and then it's just not, right? Because you've gone through so many of these treatments, it's just again and again and again where you're kind of let down. So you're kind of taking your time with it and going, okay, let's just see if this, let's just see if this makes a difference. But the thing that having this kind of documented, I guess photographic proof of something's actually happening here, something physiological is actually happening here where I'm getting this stuff out, and I have direct comparison between the other compresses, the USB compresses I took, and I photographed my eyelid margin as well, the USB eye mask and the microwavable compresses, and there was nothing on the eyelid as far as nothing that you could see as far as with the camera. So the amount of debris of meibum that was actually coming out of the glands during those treatments was pretty much night and day.
You mentioned earlier about the warmth feeling of like if you had your head over a bowl of steamed water. Was that a great, nice feeling when you first put the SteamGoggle on and felt the warm, moist heat?
Yeah. So as far as the first time where I was kind of testing with these goggles, and in the very beginning, like I said, I kind of put these wet towels inside the goggle, right? There's just kind of something to hold the water in there, and I kind of put these goggles on, and or I put the goggle on like this, and then I kind of lean forward like this, and the water vapor kind of goes up, kind of raises up, and I kind of put it on there. I go, ooh, wow, this actually feels pretty good, and I was like, this is the sensation that I haven't had before. And I'm, I kind of, kind of further, trying to recreate that into making it more consistent, kind of from a prototype to the actual device that we have today.
How long was the process from when you first created the first prototype through to the finished the product we have today?
So it was at least a number of months. So what I started out with was actually resistive heaters that you can kind of find. So they're called Kapton heaters or polyimide heaters, but they're just electric heaters that you apply a current through. And the problem with that, with those heaters, is that there's nothing to restrict the amount of heat, the temperature, as far as the max temperature at which they can go to. So if you don't have a temperature sensor to measure and control that as far as a feedback loop, so in the very beginning, I had a thermistor, which is a temperature sensor in it with these goggles, and it basically measured to try to get that 45 or 50 degrees Celsius inside that area. So in the very beginning, I had a thermistor, which is a temperature sensor in it with these goggles, and it basically measured to try to get that 45 or 50 degrees Celsius inside that area as far as what the heater was measuring it. And I was using a standard pair of polycarbonate swim goggles, right? Yeah, because that's all I had at the time. And I was gluing these heaters to the outside. And what happened was that the temperature sensor went haywire. So the circuitry went wrong or something like that. And it actually, the heater, because the temperature sensor went haywire, it basically told the heater just to keep on heating up, and it basically melted the actual goggle because it just kept on just going and kind of ran away from you. At that point, I go, this is unsafe. This is something that could never be given to anybody. I mean, let alone myself. If you fall asleep with it or anything else like that, you'd have molten goggles on you. And so that kind of stopped it at that point. This is kind of before I got to the point where I got better as far as with this. But this kind of leads me into the heaters that we actually use for this device are called PTC heaters, and they're positive temperature coefficient heaters. And what these are they're ceramic heaters, and the temperature is actually built into the heater manufacturer itself. So when these are manufactured, they're built to a certain temperature. You apply voltage to these, they heat up to that temperature, and that's it. So once they heat up to that temperature, the resistance increases to the point where it becomes an open, which means no electricity is going through anymore, and it basically stops. So what these heaters in these goggles do, and you can basically look it up on Google or Wikipedia and stuff like that. But these PTC heaters are one of the safest heaters you can possibly have around. And because if you break them or anything else like that, they literally cannot overheat because of the chemistry built inside them. They're used in your car seat heaters and things like that. Things that you really don't want to run away, and start a fire or anything else like that. Especially if you're sitting in it, if you're driving on the freeway. So you wanted something as safe as possible. And so what these do is once you turn them on, they heat up to a certain temperature, and they just stay at that temperature for the whole entire time. That's basically what's happening with this, and that allows you to basically safely turn on this device, warm up the water, and not have to worry about a close feedback loop like a lot of these other devices have to do. And they have to keep the temperature a lot lower as far as a lot less power output, because they have to make sure that these heaters are not running away from them. And that's kind of one of these things that's different about this device, which is patented as far as the use of these PTC heaters, and that's kind of what makes it very easy to use. They're not very, there's not a lot of extra electronics on it. That's what makes it simple to use and effective at the same time. So,
Tell us about who is SteamGoggle for, ideally.
when people are asking me, they contact us going, do you think this is gonna work for me? Some of the questions I asked first are, have you tried other warm compresses first, right? Because this device is obviously a little bit more expensive than your standard warm compresses at $200. Um, it's compared to $30 or $40 for a standard warm compress. But and I ask typically, do you know if you have meibomian gland dysfunction, right? Because I know that dry eye is a very encompassing. It encompasses a lot of different, diseases and things like that. There's a lot of things that go into it. Everybody's dry eye is not the same. If you have meibomian gland dysfunction, if you have these oils that are very solidified and they're kind of, like toothpaste, kind of like, I basically have pictures on my website as far as after expressing some of these glands with the Mastrota paddle, it comes out like toothpaste, kind of like you're popping a zit. And I ask, there's a lot of the people that have contacted me. They've been through a lot of doctors, right? They've gone through ophthalmologists. They've tried every heat mask, and they go, yes, and they've been diagnosed with meibomian gland dysfunction. They know they have clogged glands, and I go, you're probably a perfect candidate for this, because if you have these clogged glands, I think this device could be something that could help you more than the other devices out there, because it combines the blinking. It combines the moist heat with the blinking at the same time, which helps pump those solidified oils up and out of the gland during use. Um, and that's kind of, yeah, who I'd recommend is someone. I wouldn't recommend someone who's just starting out with dry eye, that they've taken a few eye drops, they haven't tried any masks. I'd say try the other mask first, to see if that helps you, because that does help a lot of people, right? So I'm not trying to sell, the people that don't need it, but for the people that really have already tried the other masks, they've gone to ophthalmologists, they've been diagnosed with MGD, and they're looking for something to help them. This is who this device is for.
Maybe there's someone who's maybe they've experimented with some warm the bowl of water that's moist, and they've felt real relief from that. Or maybe they've gone away on vacation to somewhere nice, somewhere tropical, and eyes felt so much better. So maybe they could be candidates as well.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people on Reddit and Facebook groups where they're actually talking about, like, their favorite thing is to put their head over a pot of boiling water. And they're actually talking about this, going, is there something like this, that, like a goggle, like people are actually typing in Steam goggles, just not even knowing that the device exists, but, just because that's what the name is. And they go, is there anything like this? And then they're starting to find this, my device now. It's still relatively unknown, compared to things like Blephasteam and things like that. But it's just funny going through some of these forums and getting people that have tried to find this, that have actually felt moist heat, like in the shower. So many people are going, my eyes feel so much better in the shower, because of this moist heat and everything. I kind of blinking around, they just feel better. Is there something like that could kind of do that in a product? And that's kind of what this, the device is essentially doing.
Tell us about some of the people that you've spoken with that have used Steam Goggle, and maybe they have meibomian gland dysfunction. They found a big benefit from humidity, moist heat. What are some of the what are some of their experiences with using Steam Goggle?
So yeah, so one of the things I think that people have really liked, besides just the effectiveness as far as the creation of the steam, is how easy it is to use as well. That's kind of comparing things to kind of like Blephasteam or things like that, some other similar products. This device it's really, you grab the goggle, I don't know if you see it here, but grab the goggle, you put the water inside of it. As long as you have a little bit of charge in the power bank, you're pretty much good to go. People have told me that they've used it on the airplane, or like other places that it would just be, it'd be very weird to kind of use, other devices, and things like that. But I think that's one of the biggest things about it is the compliance part of it, right? Because a lot these issues kind of develop over a long period of time. As I said, that I basically grew up with blepharitis, although I didn't really know it was called blepharitis at the time, because the information really wasn't out there. But anyways, I think this disease has been slowly eating away at my eyelids for a long period of time, or making it, it's been a slow progression until I actually had symptoms. And to think some of these treatments are going to help it in one session, is asking for a lot. And some of these things will take time and treatment, kind of like what happened to me over the course of a few weeks, to actually start to feel improvement. And I think compliance is a big thing, and have it easy to use. These microwavable masks, you have to be next to a microwave. You have to, go, if you're sitting upstairs, if you're doing it before you go to bed, you got to go downstairs, put it in the microwave, come back up. By the time you get up there, it's almost cooled down already. But having it, as far as the mesh bag that we sell it with, so we sell it with a mesh bag. We have the water bottle that you can put it right inside there too. So anywhere you go, you can pretty much just take it out immediately and start using it. You can sit on the couch. You don't have to be plugged in anything. You don't need any wall plug, as long as you have at least a little bit of charge in the power bank, which the power bank will supply power for at least 15 cycles. So as long as you have, and the power bank actually tells you how much the percentage left inside of it. But as long as you have any charge left on that, you can pretty much use it anywhere, anytime, and for as long as you want to use it, which I think is a pretty powerful thing. Um, and I'll say a couple testimonials that we've had, recently, just in the last few weeks. We basically had one lady that was dealing with chalazions, and I didn't know about it beforehand, but she bought the device and she left a review. And she's been having recurring chalazions, which are basically inflamed eyelid bumps, or eyelid inflamed meibomian glands. And she's been having them, numerous ones. They're getting bigger. There's more of them happening. And if she's used every time she's used a moist heat compress or USB mask, she's it's actually made it worse. It's as far as more irritated, or it's been causing them to spread. Anyway, she started using the SteamGoggle for the last few weeks, and she said the chalazions have actually been reducing in size, and they've actually kind of started to go away, and that's actually reduced the need for her to have surgery. So she was on path to have surgery to start to remove these things, and since then she's canceled the surgery because it's actually been reducing these chalazions that she's been having. And I saw that review, and I was like, holy smokes, this is something that I don't even have. I don't think I've ever had a chalazion, but to reduce the need for somebody to have surgery, which I think is absolutely huge. And as far as another one on Amazon, recently there was another one that is a person that just bought a device off Amazon, a Black Friday sale that we had a few weeks ago. But she used it, and she's actually someone that uses she's a long-time dry eye sufferer, she says in the review. But she's used the moist heat compress, the USB masks, and the microwavable compresses. And she actually expresses her glands afterwards using the Mastrota paddle or the forceps. Um, and she looks and see, if she can get anything out of the glands afterwards, expressing them, kind of like those videos that you can see online. And she hadn't really seen anything. In the review that she says, after she started using this device for a couple of times, she used it for 20, 25 minutes or so. And afterwards, she expressed her glands. She saw a whole bunch of meibum coming out of her glands, and she goes, "Holy smokes! I haven't seen this stuff come out from any other treatment that I've done thus far." And she said her eyes have started to feel better after that because these things are coming out. So I think that's somewhat indicative of it's the device may be more effective for a lot of people as far as getting these solidified oils out.
That's fantastic. You've helped to save this lady from having surgery who's going to go down that path. Yeah, now she's in a much better state now.
It's definitely great to hear that. So I'm kind of communicating with her since then, just to kind of see how she's doing. It's just great to hear that. So
Going back to what you mentioned earlier, how does SteamGoggle compare to other treatments such as Lipiflow or IPL?
yeah, so I did Lipiflow once, as I said before, and I do like the whole aspect of it. I mean, the whole mechanism of treatment I think is fantastic. The problem is that for to use it once, it could be, I think, $700 to $1,000 depending on where you go. But that's basically one treatment, right? It's one treatment session. And I think a lot of people that have this disease, it's built up over a long period of time. And, I think, if you could use Lipiflow, a couple times a week, I think that'd be fantastic. I think it'd be awesome. I think everybody using it. But, if you're only expected to use it every 6 months, and things like that, I think it's not as effective for a lot of people that need something to kind of use, to kind of hit it every day, right? To kind of consistently kind of treat this again and again and again on a consistent basis. Because if it took that long to kind of build up, it kind of takes some time to kind of get rid of it too. I mean, there are people that have had success stories with Lipiflow after one treatment, but I think that's not everybody, and a lot of people are still having issues afterwards, like me. And I forget if I said this for the first time, but after Lipiflow, I actually came back and I expressed, I had it, and probably a couple hours afterwards, I went and used the Mastrota paddle. My left eye, I was kind of pressing, and I had, a whole bunch of meibum come out again, and it was thick. It was like toothpaste again, right? So, as far as one of those sessions wasn't able to get a lot of that really, stuck meibum inside there. So Um, that's kind of why I'm saying you mean multiple sessions, things like that, or maybe something that you may need to do that may be more effective. And then for IPL, I never actually did IPL. It was never recommended to me. I'm not sure. It may be kind of more of a new, kind of a more recent kind of trend. I'm not sure, but it was never recommended to me by doctors or anything like that. And it was never kind of really on my radar at that point. So I can't really speak to that as much. I do know it is kind of along the same thing. It's what, $400 or $500 a treatment. It's kind of a one-time treatment, and they're kind of expecting you to come back. Uh, the thing I like about the Steam goggles is you buy it once and you can use it for as long as you want. For it'll basically last forever. So you can use it for as long as you want. So it's basically $200, and you can it's a lifetime kind of thing, as opposed to doing these one-time treatments. You have to keep on going back and paying more for each single cycle.
If someone looked at the product, they were thinking, how robust are these? Is the Steam Goggle? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so we offer so right now we offer a 6 month warranty on it. I think we're probably extended it to 1 year. But yeah, so if we do have people do have issues with it or anything else like that, we offer no questions asked. We'll send you another one. But it's the device itself is pretty sturdy. It's pretty simple and sturdily built. But yeah, if people have any issues or anything else like that, I don't foresee them. But our return policy is pretty quick, and we should be able to help them out pretty quickly if anybody does have issues.
Do you think what role does blinking play in the effectiveness of the Steam Goggle treatment?
Yeah, kind of how, I think like Tear Care kind of is talking about this as well. They kind of put these heated pads on the outside of your eyelid. And I kind of took, after Lipiflow, kind of on the same mechanism of action as the Steam goggles, but the Steam goggle uses blinking as that massaging mechanism, right? So instead of, the pulsing mechanism that Lipiflow has while it's applying heat, the Steam goggle uses your blinking during the actual use. And I think that's one of the most important differences as far as what makes this device different than your standard USB mask or your standard microwavable compress, is that you're actually blinking during it. So one big point that most people can see, they don't even have dry eye, and they go, well, if you can see during use, that would make me buy it right then. So that's one of the biggest the things that people are talking about too, is that as far as something straight off the bat, is that I can look at my phone or read emails, or do something to use my eyes, or even watch a Netflix video, as far as while doing it, as opposed to, because some of these people that are buying this device and using it are using their USB mask for 30 minutes to an hour a day, right? And imagine you're just losing 30 minutes to an hour of your day just sitting there, right? And it gets really boring, if you do that. I've done that. You're basically just losing that, and do that every single day. So now you're given the opportunity to actually, use your eyes, and as far as make yourself useful during that time, which is which is a big deal to a lot of people.
And sometimes, yeah,
Okay.
but when you close your eyes, some people fall asleep, and then yeah, that time's lost as well.
The flip side of that, being able to use your eyes, that's great. But on the other side of it, the blinking aspect is actually massaging these oil glands as they're being heated, and that's actually pumping out these meibomian oils, which you can see on my results page of the website. That you can actually see these white oils, these thickened oils are actually starting to come out over the course of blinking. And some people, it's not going to happen to everyone, I think, but you may even have the same sensation I did after a couple of these sessions, after probably 15, 20 minutes in. That's what it usually didn't happen after 5, 10 minutes. It usually happened 15, 20 minutes in, but this kind of sandy, gritty sensation that I had after a big forced blink, that really kind of shocked me. And I go, whoa, this is something different that I've never heard of. And to see that match up afterwards with the photograph of a ton of white meibum on the outside of my lid margin after that, is kind of showing that things are actually coming out of the eyelid. And that's kind of the main mechanism of action with this device. So being more useful as you're using it, and actually getting these oils out of your eyelid more easily, because I think during these moisty compresses, you have your eyes closed, right? They're not really moving. You're heating it up. I think you're heating the oils up potentially, but I think as soon as you take off that heat, I think those oils cool down very quickly. Because as far as the thing that, as far as kind of pushing, as far as doing eyelid massage afterwards, I think that a lot of these oils cool down so quickly. I mean, it could be a couple seconds before they're almost, body temperature again. Coming down from the 45 degrees Celsius if they were. So by the time you've taken it off and you're starting to, massage the glands again with your finger or anything else like that, I feel like there's a good chance that they've already cooled down and they won't be able to be expressed anymore.
Let's talk Blephasteam versus SteamGoggle.
Yeah, so Blephasteam, I actually bought the Blephasteam 2 device. I actually have it, so I can kind of do a direct comparison on it. I'd say one of the biggest differences is the ease of use of the device. Blephasteam 2, you basically have a separate water kind of lattice insert that you kind of have to put in. You kind of have to dunk it inside this kind of little tray, and you have to put it in. You also have to charge the Blephasteam beforehand on a charging dock that has to be plugged into the wall. So all these things have to be done, and it takes about 4 minutes to charge. So you basically have to charge the device, put it on top there, charge for about 10 minutes, and then put the water insert in, soak the water insert, put it in, take it off, and then once you have about the 8-minute treatment cycle or 10-minute treatment cycle, you have to let it charge for, I think, about 90 minutes. So you basically have one 8-minute session, that's it. The SteamGoggle, one of the differences on this is that you have the goggle. You basically you have it right in front of you. You put the water, you fill the water lattice with water. Takes about 2 seconds, and you push the power button as long as it's connected to the power bank, and you put it on, and that's it. So you can use it anywhere as long as you have a little bit of charge in the power bank. You're good to go, and you can use it for as long as you want. So you can use it for 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes if you want. If it's feeling good to you and you think it's helping you, then you can do that. The other thing, which I think is a big difference, is that the temperature. So everybody's a little bit different as far as the moist heat temperature that they can tolerate. And we found out that by having people test this in the very beginning, give it to different people, besides just myself. And some people are able to tolerate a little more heat than others, right? And the other thing too is that the first time you use it, you kind of acclimate to the amount of heat, right? So the amount of heat you want in the very beginning may not be the amount of heat that you want after 5 or 6 sessions. So that's something that's very useful to have as far as an adjustment. And the adjustment that you use on the SteamGoggle is not a normal kind of switch where you type in, if you want medium, low, or high. It's basically by adding more or less water to the water lattice. So with the water bottle, that we supply, you basically kind of just fill these little grooves in the inside of the goggle with water. And if you want the lowest temperature possible, if you're just trying to try it the first time, don't fill up the water lattice at all, and you'll basically won't even notice really any heat at all. So there's basically no moist heat at all. You'll put them on, you basically won't even basically notice the temperature difference at all. And if you fill up a couple squares, you'll notice a little bit more. And that's kind of how I tell people to kind of start out, is to fill up about half of it or something like that, and then try it out and see. And that's kind of how you adjust it. And the other way is how you do it as far as the adjustment process. If you look straight as you're using the device, you're going to feel moist heat. But if you start to tilt your head downwards, the moist heat kind of, as it's being vaporized, kind of rises. So you're going to feel a more intense kind of moist heat at that point too. So if you can, there's a lot of people, their very first time, they fill up the water lattice all the way and they're looking straight down. And they're going, they basically just love that feeling as far as the moist heat. But others, they like it a little bit less, so they may not look down as they're doing it. They kind of may just look straight ahead. But there's kind of that adjustment process. It's very useful to different people and in different stages of dry eye. If your eyes are really irritated, you may not want as moist. So that's kind of one of the benefits, I'd say, as well. As far as Blephasteam, you don't really, if you're looking downwards or forwards, or if you fill up the water lattice more or less, it doesn't really change the temperature. It's pretty much a standard temperature. So I'd say that's a benefit of using the device. So, and I'd say you can kind of get a more intense moist heat if you want it, based on, as far as the adjustment process. If you want that, the goggles are smaller to kind of concentrate that moist heat, right? As opposed to kind of a mask type, kind of bigger atmosphere as far as volume that you have. And these little tiny goggles are able to concentrate this moist heat, and I think better able to kind of surround the eye as you're doing it, and kind of help massage those glands and kind of evacuate those that stagnant meibum.
And the size of the string, the SteamGoggle, it's meant to try and sit on the bony part around the eyes to take the weight off the eyes, right?
Yeah, so it's as far as the seal that you have around the uh, as far as the goggle is basically just a silicone seal, and it basically separates from the rest of the goggle. And basically, it's trying to just target your eye yourself, as opposed to your eyebrows and your under your eye. But you're basically just trying to target those meibomian glands in that kind of area. And that's basically what the device does. And we basically say leave the device kind of loose in the very beginning, kind of put it on and kind of test it out, and you can kind of adjust the temperature as you kind of see fit. And kind of like what I said before, a lot of people start out with lower temperatures, and after five or six, or after one or two sessions, or maybe like five or six, they're basically using it at full heat, full temperature, right? So that was kind of something that I kind of learned. It's kind of like going to jacuzzi. The first couple of times, the first time you do it, it's really hot and it's stinging your skin. But then after you do a couple of times, you can basically jump in, and have no problems.
Tell us about your eyes now. What's how your eyes feel? How do they feel day to day now?
It's kind of like a miracle story, I guess, from what I've gone through on a daily basis. I basically had no way, if I had a flare up, which it tended to happen in bad situations too, like something, that I wanted to enjoy, and else like that, just thinking about it too, your eyes would start to hurt more. And I basically had no way of trying to reduce, trying to get rid of it. Eye drops didn't help really at all. The compresses didn't help. I just kind of had to deal with it. So I had nothing to kind of help me. But at this point right now, I really don't think about my eyes anymore, which is, I think, for so many dry eye patients to have that, to be able to say that statement is basically a miracle. At least for me, looking back 2 or 3 years, to be able to go, say what I'm saying right now and go, I don't really think about my eyes anymore, or I don't really have an issue, would be just absolute miracle status. And, I can't say, and won't say this is going to happen to everybody, right, that they use the device, because obviously dry eye is very complicated. There's a lot of, other things that go into it that I may not have, or other, abnormalities. But um, the I do occasionally use the device if I get some irritation, whatever. I'll probably use the device every few weeks. But really, I only use it if I have kind of symptoms again. But on the daily basis, as far as how I'm doing right now, I really don't have any symptoms anymore. So it's really helped me out. And I think that's something that I think that the device is powerful enough that I think it can help other people that have kind of similar symptoms and issues like me. I think it has the ability to help them. I think it has the ability to help other people that have tried all other available treatments.
David, it's been inspiring to hear your journey, going from having this gritty sensation, thinking about your eyes all the time, to now having so much more improvement in your eyes, your symptoms, improving your quality of life. It's been an inspirational story.
Yeah, thank you. I love to. I mean, that's kind of the point of doing this, I think, is to kind of share the story and go. It is possible to kind of to pull yourself out of this, nightmare that I was kind of going through. That I know a lot of other people are going through. As far as we speak. And I think, yeah, as I said before, this device has the ability to help a lot of people out there that have tried all the other treatments. And I hope, kind of sharing this story, people kind of hearing this, maybe we'll kind of think about using it, and giving it a shot, and see if it helps them as well.
Thanks so much for giving your time, David. Really appreciate it. And if anyone's interested in checking out the device, yeah, I'll leave a link in the description underneath the video. Thanks so much.